I never realized how much of life I'd missed out on until I turned 62. That was the year everything changed when I finally started to ask myself, Maeve, what held you back all these years? What did you deny yourself? These questions felt like both a rebuke and a revelation. It wasn't easy to face, but the answers were there, waiting for me in the most unexpected way. The moment it all began, I was cleaning out the attic of my old house, a place I had avoided for over a decade. Since Liam, my husband of 35 years, had passed away, that space had become a kind of silent tomb for memories I couldn't bear to disturb. But that day, a sudden wave of determination pushed me to confront it. The attic was just as I remembered, a maze of dusty boxes, forgotten trinkets, and a faint musty smell that instantly tightened my chest. I approached the first box, pried it open, and there it was, a photo album I hadn't seen in years. The sight of it made me freeze. Slowly, I opened the cover, and the first image stopped me in my tracks. It was from my 20s. There I was, standing on a sunny beach, holding a cocktail in one hand and laughing without a care in the world. I was wearing a bold yellow bikini and oversized sunglasses, looking as though nothing in life could weigh me down. The sight of young, carefree Maeve stirred something deep within me. As I flipped through the pages, I heard footsteps. Startled, I turned to see Callum, my step-grandson, standing in the doorway. I hadn't seen him in 3 years, not since he'd moved away for work. At 29, he was no longer the lanky boy I remembered. He had grown into a confident, broad-shouldered man. Maeve, he said, raising a paper bag in one hand and a coffee cup in the other. Callum. I replied, shocked but genuinely delighted. What are you doing here? Passing through and saw your car outside, he said with an easy smile. Thought I'd stop by and check on you. Before I could protest, he stepped further into the attic, his eyes scanning the space before landing on the photo album in my hands. What's that? He asked, intrigued. Just an old album, I said, clutching it to my chest. But Callum was already moving closer. Without asking, he took the album and flipped to the picture of me on the beach. His reaction was immediate. This is you. Yes, I admitted with a nervous laugh. Callum stared at the photo for a moment longer than I expected. Wow, he said, finally meeting my eyes. You look amazing. It's hard to imagine you like this. I didn't know what to say. There was something in his voice, a mix of admiration and awe, that made my cheeks flush. We sat down together, and he started flipping through the pages. Each photo seemed to reveal more of a side of me I had long forgotten. There was one of me at a nightclub in a glittering red dress, another of me dancing barefoot on a rooftop. You were wild, Callum said, his voice tinged with disbelief. Everyone has their wild years, I said, brushing it off. But as I watched him study each photo with fascination, I felt a strange warmth bloom inside me, something I hadn't felt in years. The conversation flowed effortlessly as we continued to explore the album, laughing at old hairstyles and marveling at how much life had changed. But somewhere in those shared moments, the air between us began to shift. When Callum finally closed the album, his gaze lingered on me. You're incredible, Maeve, he said softly. I don't know why, but seeing you like this, it's like I'm seeing you for the first time. His words left me breathless. It had been so long since anyone had looked at me that way or spoken to me with such genuine admiration. I didn't know how to respond, so I stayed quiet, hoping my expression could convey what I couldn't put into words. Callum reached out and took my hand, his touch warm and steady. Maeve, he began, his voice low and sincere, you're not just beautiful, you're extraordinary. I felt my heart race as I met his gaze for the first time in years. I felt truly seen, not as the widow left behind, but as the vibrant woman I once was. That moment changed everything. The days following that encounter were marked by a newfound energy in me. Callum ended up staying longer than expected, offering to help me with the attic cleanup. We spent hours going through boxes, laughing over old knickknacks, and rediscovering pieces of my past that I had long since forgotten. But it wasn't just the attic that came alive during those moments. It was me. One afternoon, while sorting through a box of vintage clothes, I found an old dress, emerald green, with a dramatic neckline and a fitted waist. It had been my favorite during my 20s, and seeing it again brought a rush of memories. "You should try it on," Callum suggested, his eyes lighting up. I hesitated. "Oh, I don't think it would even fit anymore." "Only one way to find out," he said with a grin. Encouraged by his enthusiasm, I slipped into the dress. To my surprise, it fit like a glove. When I emerged from a hallway, Callum's expression shifted to something unreadable. "You look stunning," he said quietly. I blushed under his gaze, feeling a flicker of confidence I hadn't felt in decades. As the days turned into weeks, Callum and I grew closer in ways that felt both comforting and disconcerting. There was an undeniable pull between us, one that I couldn't explain or ignore. But with that pull came guilt. Late one evening, as I stood in the kitchen washing dishes, Callum appeared behind me. Without a word, he placed a hand on my shoulder. The warmth of his touch sent a shiver down my spine. "You're overthinking again," he said gently, as if reading my thoughts. "How can I not?" I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "This isn't normal." "Who decides what's normal?" he countered. His words hung in the air, challenging everything I thought I knew. One night, after Callum had gone to bed, I sat alone in the living room, staring at the photo album we had rediscovered. The images of my younger self felt like they belonged to a different person, a version of me who had been fearless, unapologetic, and free. "Where did she go?" I murmured to myself. The answer was simple. She had been buried under years of responsibilities, grief, and self-doubt. But now, with Callum's presence stirring something inside me, I felt the faintest glimpse of her return. As the weeks passed, Callum's visits became a regular occurrence. Each time he left, I felt the weight of his absence more acutely. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, he turned to me with a serious expression. "Maeve," he began, his voice steady but tinged with vulnerability. "I don't know how to say this without it sounding wrong, but I've never felt this way about anyone before." My breath caught in my throat. "I know it's complicated," he continued, "but I can't pretend these feelings don't exist." His honesty left me reeling. "I don't know what to do," I admitted, my voice breaking. "Then let's figure it out together," he said simply. The journey that followed wasn't easy. We faced judgment, self-doubt, and countless questions about the nature of our bond. But through it all, one thing remained clear. We had found something rare and undeniable in each other. For the first time in decades, I felt alive, truly alive. And as I looked into Callum's eyes, I knew that life was too short to let fear hold me back any longer. After that porch conversation, I found myself caught in an emotional whirlpool. Callum's words lingered in my mind, filling my quiet moments with equal parts excitement and unease. The idea of pursuing anything beyond our companionship felt both impossible and inevitable. I knew what people would say, the judgment that would come with it. I could almost hear the whispers of neighbors, the sharp disapproval of family members. Liam's family, in particular, would never understand. They'd see it as a betrayal of his memory. But Liam had been gone for over a decade. Was it so wrong to find happiness again? One day, as Callum and I sorted through a box of old letters, I came across a letter Liam had written to me before his passing. It was tucked into an envelope marked, "To Maeve, when you need it most." My hands trembled as I opened it. Callum, sensing the gravity of the moment, sat silently beside me. In his neat, familiar handwriting, Liam's words felt like they were reaching across time. "If you're reading this, it means I'm no longer by your side. I want you to know that my greatest joy in life was loving you. But life doesn't stop when one of us leaves. It's a gift meant to be lived fully and without regret. If someday you find yourself drawn to someone else, if they make you laugh the way we used to laugh, or remind you how beautiful and vibrant you are, don't hold back. Love them. Live for both of us." By the time I reached the end, tears were streaming down my face. Callum placed a hand on my back, his touch grounding me as I absorbed Liam's final gift, a blessing I hadn't expected but desperately needed. "Are you okay?" Callum asked gently. I nodded, my voice shaky. "I think so." But the truth was, I wasn't sure what I felt. Relief? Gratitude? Or maybe just the overwhelming weight of possibility. Despite Liam's words, moving forward wasn't simple. Every interaction with Callum felt charged, as if the air between us had become electrified. I noticed things I hadn't before, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the deep timbre of his laugh, the quiet strength in his presence. One evening, as we stood in the kitchen preparing dinner, our hands brushed while reaching for the same cutting board. The touch lingered longer than necessary, and when our eyes met, something unspoken passed between us. I stepped back, my heart pounding. "This is complicated," I whispered. Callum set the cutting board down and turned to face me fully. "It doesn't have to be," he said. "But it is," I insisted, gripping the edge of the counter for support. "I'm your step-grandmother. This isn't normal." "Who decides what's normal?" he countered, echoing his earlier words. I looked away, unable to meet his gaze. "People will talk. They'll judge. Let them," he said firmly. "They don't know us. They don't know what we've been through, what we mean to each other." His conviction was both reassuring and terrifying. It wasn't long before the rumors started. I spotted Callum leaving my house late one evening and wasted no time spreading the news. By the following week, whispers had turned into outright confrontation. One afternoon, as I walked to the market, I overheard two women talking in hushed tones. "Can you believe it? Maeve, of all people, and with her step-grandson. It's disgusting." The other replied, "She should be ashamed." Their words stung, but I kept my head high and walked past them without acknowledging their presence. Inside, though, I was crumbling. When I returned home, Callum was waiting for me on the porch. The sight of him, so steady and unwavering, brought tears to my eyes. "They're talking about us," I said, my voice trembling. "Let them," he replied, pulling me into a comforting embrace. "They don't matter." But it wasn't just strangers who disapproved. When my daughter, Ellen, found out, her reaction was explosive. "How could you, Mom?" she shouted, pacing my living room with a look of disbelief. "He's practically family." "He's not," I argued, trying to keep my voice steady. "Not by blood, and not in the way you think." "That doesn't make it right," she snapped. "What would Dad think if he were here?" I handed her Liam's letter, hoping it would. "Help her understand," I said. She read it silently, her expression softening slightly, but still filled with confusion. I don't get it," she said finally, her voice quieter now. "He's so much younger than you. What could he possibly see in you?" Her words cut deep, but I held my ground. "He sees me, Ellen, not as a widow or an old woman, but as someone worth loving." As the weeks turned into months, Callum and I weathered the storm of judgment together. There were moments when the pressure felt unbearable, when I wondered if it would be easier to walk away. But each time doubt crept in, Callum was there to remind me why we were fighting for this. He encouraged me to rediscover the parts of myself I had buried over the years. Together, we took up dancing, a hobby I hadn't pursued since my 30s. We went hiking, explored new restaurants, and even planned a weekend getaway to the coast. For the first time in decades, I felt alive. But it wasn't just the external changes that mattered. Internally, I was transforming too. I stopped caring so much about what others thought. I started embracing the idea that my happiness was worth fighting for, even if it didn't fit neatly into society's expectations. One day, as I was tending to my garden, a car pulled into the driveway. To my surprise, it was Ellen. She stepped out, looking hesitant but determined. "Mom," she began, her voice softer than it had been in weeks. "Can we talk?" I nodded, wiping my hands on my apron. We sat on the porch, the late afternoon sun casting a warm glow around us. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," Ellen admitted. "About how he sees you. And I think I understand now." Her words caught me off guard. "I've spent so much of my life trying to live up to what other people expect," she continued, "and it's made me miserable. But you're brave, Mom. You're choosing happiness, even when it's hard." Tears welled up in my eyes as I reached for her hand. "I just want you to be happy too," I said. Ellen nodded, a small smile breaking through her serious expression. "I'm trying, Mom. I really am. As time passed, the whispers began to fade. People moved on to other gossip, and those who truly mattered, my family, my closest friends, began to accept Callum and me for who we were. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the stars, Callum turned to me with a serious expression. "Maeve," he said, taking my hand, "you've given me something I never thought I'd find, a home, a purpose, and a love I never knew was possible." I smiled, my heart full. "And you've given me my life back," I replied. In that moment, I knew we had made the right choice. Despite the challenges, the judgment, and the uncertainty, we had found something rare and beautiful, a love that defied convention and brought us both back to life. As Maeve and Callum found their way through the complexities of their unconventional love story, they reminded us all of an important truth. Happiness often lies outside the boundaries of what others deem acceptable. Their courage to follow their hearts, despite the judgment they faced, is a testament to the power of love and self-discovery. What do you think about their journey? Was it a brave act of love, or do you feel differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective on this emotional and thought-provoking story. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the History Minute for more incredible stories that make you think, feel, and reflect. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.